All right, what's up? What's good? What's happening? What do you do, baby? You are tuned in to another edition of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. It's your boy Xavier, aka X, aka Zay, joined by my brother from another, Kory Blackshear. KB is in the building. The professor is no longer here, y'all. I'm sad to say, professor is no longer here. We got the OG himself, KB, back in the building. KB, what's up, bro?
What's going on, bro?
And we got a special guest joining us in the building tonight. He's been on the show a couple of times before. Y'all know him. Lawrence Vaughn is in the house. Law, what's good, man?
What's going on? Appreciate y'all for having me on this evening.
Yes, sir. We could not get into the March Madness without talking to the guru himself. For y'all who don't know, Lawrence is a guru when it comes to this college basketball stuff. And we're going to touch on that in just a moment, especially leading with the news that shook up the college basketball world on Tuesday night with the firing of Hubert Davis at North Carolina. But before we get into that, I just have a message I'd like to share with everybody out there, because the times that we're living in, and I know that there are people who are feeling hopeless, despair and all of these different things. But I simply just want to say this, if you're somebody and you have a dream that you want to go after, you have things that you want to continue to achieve in your life, and you have these aspirations, no matter what things look like, don't give up. And I'm sharing this from a personal place, just in terms of last Friday, I found myself on the floor covering the first round of the March Madness tournament at Benchmark International Arena, 8 different teams taking the floor. But Sunday is when I really just had that moment, man. Like, you're there for the second round, and I'm there on the floor as Alabama is beating the holy tarnation out of Texas Tech. Texas Tech did a bunch of rah-rah stuff before the game that I didn't understand, and it felt like they used all their energy for that as opposed to the ball game itself. But I'm just out there, I'm on the floor, and I'm just watching this happen in real time. And man, I got to tell you, it was one of those moments where it took every amount of strength in my body to keep tears from falling out of my eyes, and these aren't sad tears, they were happy tears, because I'm reminded of the promises that God has made us, that he's made us as people, the different things that we pray for, what we go after, our dreams, our aspirations. And KB, bro, man, we used to have these conversations when we were in high school, coming in, talking about March Madness, talking about the NBA playoffs, all these sports conversations. Law, we've been having these conversations in our group chat for years now, man. All these different aspirations and things that we want to do, and just talking and chopping up shop about these games and everything like that. And I won't lie to you, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discipline, but it's possible for you to achieve anything that it is that you want to achieve in this life. And I encourage you to continue to go for it, because for me to find myself, and I covered the women's Final Four last year, but this moment was different for me because I actually got to stand out on the floor as the game's happening in real time and really soak all of this in, as opposed to not really getting to do that as much with the women's Final Four, because the NCAA was very strict with that. Just in terms of, I was lucky enough to get down there on the floor to shoot a stand-up for a story I was doing for it, and then I had to get right back off of it. But man, just to be out there in real time and be amongst all of that as it's happening in real time, not too far from the bands, and just watching the teams play in real time, seeing head coach Nate Oates of Alabama, and just being in front of all of this. These are things that we talked about just in passing conversations of how teams played, and then talking about all the different things that we wanted to accomplish. And once again, I'm just reminded of the goodness of God and how great God is, and that he always keeps his promises. But I got news for everybody out there. These promises are not just kept for me, they're kept for you too. So anything that you want to go after in this life, any dreams that you have, give it to God. Believe it, speak it, receive it when it happens, and be ready for your moment. Be ready for everything that comes with it, whether it's some form of isolation that you might have to take away from certain things, certain people, because when God's getting ready to elevate you, I'm going to tell you right now, things going to get uncomfortable, and you're not going to understand it every single time, but you're going to be thankful when that elevation happens, and you're going to be thankful that things happen the way that it did too. So I just wanted to share that word, and I really hope that somebody out there is encouraged by that when you listen at that, because once again, we live in a troubled world right now, but just understand that through God, all things are possible. And, you can do anything that it is that you put your mind to. If you believe it, you indeed can achieve it. So I just hope that somebody out there is encouraged by that. Fellas, before we get into the topics, do you have anything that you want to add?
I think you said it pretty much best, man. Like if you believe it, you can achieve it. Do anything through God. I believe that if you have something that you're passionate about, regardless of what that is, then you should follow it through. Um, so yeah, I think that you pretty hit it. You hit the nail on the head on that one. I think that you living through your own testimony and actually following through with everything that you spoke about previously in the past. I think that's a big thing because it does inspire other people, whether you believe it or not. And so I think that what you're doing is you're living proof of following your dreams and never giving up on yourself, and being holding yourself accountable for everything that you basically told yourself that you was going to accomplish over time. So I think that that is something that is inspiring and that a lot of people can aspire to, because it's not something that's unattainable. So I think that X, you pretty much got your message across. I'm pretty much in agreement with what you said.
And one more thing I want to say before Law chimes in with his thoughts on this really quickly, and then we got to move on into the topics. I want to make this point clear to everybody too. As long as you wake up every day and you got blood flowing through your veins and breath in your lungs, and you can get up and do for yourself, it is not too late for you to go about achieving what it is that you want to do. I don't care how old you are. I don't care about what stage of your life you are in. If you have things that you want to achieve and God is giving you the ability to get up every single day to go after it, it's not too late for you to go out there and do it. So don't look at it as an age thing either, y'all, because we hear these stories all the time of people who feel like they got late starts in life. And I used to view it like that, but I don't view it that way anymore, because I'm just, I'm reminded of the story of the turtle and the tortoise, and well, the turtle and the rabbit. And I'm just always reminded of the fact that life is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And everything happens when it's supposed to happen for a reason. You have circumstances that come up in your life that you might feel that hinder you, and you might feel that just means no, it's not supposed to happen. But what I've really learned to embrace, especially in the past few years, that no does not always mean no. Sometimes it just means not yet. You might not be ready for it yet, but keep working for it. Keep the faith, keep praying for it, and it will happen. Law, anything you want to add, bro?
I would just add that uh, this little testimony that you shared, I feel like more people in our community need to share, because you never know how far your words could go to impacting somebody else. And that could be the one thing that they need to hear in that moment in their lives. And so I won't necessarily say that, it's necessarily selfish to keep it in, but I feel like it's okay to let your light shine. And I'm just grateful to have been a part of that in real time, to be able to hear that, hear those words from you.
And I appreciate everybody out there. I made a couple of social media posts about me being out there at March Madness. I appreciate everybody with the comments and the love that you've been showing me. And I appreciate y'all, brothers, man. Just the conversations we've had over the years. You have no idea how those have impacted me, empowered me all the way through. And we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going, and we're going to keep reaching these dreams, every single one of us. Let's go ahead and let's get into the topics on hand for tonight, man. As I said, we got to start off with the news that shook up the college basketball world on Tuesday night. We had a feeling it was coming down the pipeline. We were just waiting for it to become official. Hubert Davis is no longer the head coach at the University of North Carolina for men's basketball. And listen, I'm going to keep his personal life completely out of it. I'm not going to go into the comments that were made a couple of years ago at his introductory press conference when he was talking about his wife and his children and all those different things. I want to solely keep it on basketball. And I want to simply say this. You don't root for anybody to ever lose their job. Hubert Davis's tenure at North Carolina was not a complete failure. He did get them to a championship game in his first season there, and I believe in his third season there, he got them at least to the Elite Eight, maybe to the Final Four. Law, I want to say he's got them pretty far twice. So,
Yeah.
it wasn't a complete failure by any stretch of the imagination, but it was time for this to happen because it's just certain jobs where you're not allowed to underperform. Hubert Davis had a 125-54 record as a head coach at the University of North Carolina, and that's not a bad record at all. Here's the problem with that, though. None of those wins were the equivalent of a national championship ring. Yeah, it's a Final Four appearance, it's a national championship appearance in there, but they used to hoisting up trophies in Chapel Hill and not conference tournament trophies, not just Final Four trophies. They used to hoisting up national championship trophies, and that just did not happen in his tenure there. In the previous 2 seasons, his final 2 seasons, they're losing in the round of 64 2 years in a row, including this year, blowing a 19-point lead and losing to VCU in overtime. And you just knew in his post-game press conference after the game, too, he just seemed defeated. His answers he gave, honestly, were not good. You would even go borderline to say unacceptable, but I want to be human in this moment, too. So I don't want to necessarily use that word, but you could just tell that he was defeated and absolutely dejected. And it's almost like he knew that this was more than likely coming down the pipeline. So in all seriousness, because I know that a lot of jokes have been made in the past couple of days. Law, I know that we've gotten off our jokes in the group chat, but in all seriousness, I want to wish the best to Hubert Davis and his family, because everything that we've heard about Hubert Davis is that he's a wonderful man and he's a wonderful person. And we run across wonderful people every single day on jobs and people who do different things. But the reality is, if you're not performing how you're supposed to perform, we got to get somebody in there who can perform. So now the search is on to decide who is going to be the next person in charge to lead this program, hopefully back to the state of prominence that they are used to having. And I've got my list of candidates that I'm going to go down. But fellas, first, I'm going to give the floor to y'all. Law, we're going to start with you because I know you're a North Carolina fan. Just your early reactions when you first got this news that Hubert Davis was no longer going to be the man leading this team.
Like you said, you never root for anybody to lose their job or, to have bad things happen to them. But me, honestly, it was kind of like overdue. I'm gonna be honest. I would have let him go after we were preseason number 1 and didn't make the tournament that same year. Ain't no way you gonna be preseason number 1. I can forgive the loss in the championship. Cool, can't win them all. Let's recoup. You brought everybody back. You brought R.J. Davis back. You brought Caleb Love back. You brought Armando Bangkok back for his second senior year, preseason number 1. There shouldn't be no excuse not to make the tournament. But cool, all right, that could be all right, bro, here's your last chance. And like you pointed out, X, you losing around a 64. So it's just kind of it almost gave the sense to me, speaking on his presser after the loss to VCU, that he had the feeling y'all should be thankful that I'm coaching here. And he felt entitled to the position in North Carolina, where it's no, bro, you're not bigger than a brand. You have to go earn this every day you step out there. You need to be coaching for your job. So I was happy that they finally made the move, because some places you'll see they'll hold on to a coach too long and you miss out on potential replacements. And now it's dang, bro, we can't get anybody this cycle, so we might as well hold on to him again another cycle. So I was glad that they finally let him go.
KB, your thoughts when that announcement came down on Tuesday evening that North Carolina would no longer be led by Hubert Davis?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much one of those. The writing was on the wall. I think we pretty much know, even as you said in that press conference, kind of was one of those feelings. I think that a lot of times, we kind of don't acknowledge that people got self-awareness. I think that he, even in his own mind, knew that this was going to be it. I think that certain things ran its course. Of course, he was the successor to Roy Williams, who had a lot of success at North Carolina, in his tenure. And it was kind of trying to transition him into being the next great North Carolina coach, and it didn't work out for different reasons. Now, he had a lot of talent. he had some talented squads in his 5 seasons. So we can't say that, it wasn't a failure, but I could look at it possibly as being a disappointment. Just because of the talent that's come through North Carolina, like you said, some of those guys that you mentioned, RJ Davis, Caleb Love, that team I thought could have rattled off maybe 2. That was honestly the amount of talent that they had. I thought they could have maybe rattled off 2. But, things happen and, the ball just rolled a different way. But I honestly look at it like this was the right decision this time. The only thing that was going through my mind when I got the news was who does North Carolina have their eyes on now? And X, kind of transitioned a little bit into, our next topic when we're asking like who would be on their radar. I'm gonna throw out a name and y'all tell me. And I wasn't thinking this at first, but then it kind of dawned on me a little bit. If Bill Self possibly stepped away from Kansas, because I know they were talking about retirement, but do you think that he just needs a start somewhere else? I know we were talking about he going from Kansas, which is another blue blood program, but like you said, jobs like this doesn't just come open, very often. I know there's a couple of other coaches that I could think of, but I was just trying to like think about somebody that I could see like North Carolina. I don't see them, looking at any more former like alumni or anybody like that as far as being coaches. I think they moved past that. So now I'm looking at it like, do they just like try to go after like a big time coach? And it may not be Bill Self. I'm just talking about like big name coaches that they could possibly make a splash that kind of get, the city of Raleigh back, kind of excited about North Carolina basketball, because this was kind of a tough way to go out in the round of 64. So what would be their next move?
Yeah, I'm glad you clarified that part at the end, because to Bill Self, I'm going to say an immediate no, because I don't believe his retirement is happening because he's tired of coaching the Kansas Jayhawks. I believe it more so has to do with these lingering health issues that we've been seeing him have the past few years. You've seen Bill Self have to miss games because he's had to get himself checked out a couple of times at the hospital or different things like that. So I think his health has more so to do with why there are any thoughts on his retirement as opposed to anything else. And Kansas is one of the top jobs in the country too. So leaving Kansas to go to North Carolina at this point, I don't see that happening. But I will throw a couple of names out there for you. And I honestly wasn't thinking about this earlier until today, just listening at a couple of shows and really giving some thought to it. Billy Donovan is a name that sparks interest to me because things are not going well with the Chicago Bulls, and they really haven't gone well for most of his NBA tenure, if we're being honest, KB and Law. But in college basketball, we saw what he turned the Florida Gators into. He went to Florida during a time that they were primarily and solely just a football school and turned them into a powerhouse. Like, they were winning conference tournaments. They were winning national championships, had NBA players all over the floor. The last team to actually win back-to-back championships prior to Dan Hurley doing it earlier this decade was Billy Donovan in Florida doing it in 2006 and 2007, those squads that had Corey Brewer and Joakim Noah, Al Horford, and those guys. So he's a name that I think is honestly interesting. But we're being told that there's a lot to do with the relationship with him and the Reinsdorf family, who honestly should be forced to sell their sports franchises at this point, because it's just not looking good for the Bulls or the White Sox, how things appear to be ran there, unfortunately. Ty Golden was a name that I was thinking that they would go after, and they still might go after him. But I'm telling y'all now, as somebody down here in Florida and really trying to keep my feet on the ground on this, they're doing everything possible in Gainesville right now to ink him to another contract extension. They don't want to lose him. And I don't know if he wants to leave to go to Chapel Hill right now anyway.
I did want to say there was another name I did see pop up. Now, I know we just said I don't think that they're going to go after any, alum or anybody like that. I've seen the name Jerry Stackhouse brought up. I don't know exactly what would be, the appeal, but I don't know. Possibly they may advise, Roy Williams to help them in their search. That may be a thing where they may just ask him, like, hey, who do you think would be a good fit for North Carolina? Like, if you had to help us pick somebody, they may, lean on the shoulder just to ask, like, just for advice. It has nothing to do with, like, him being involved in North Carolina beyond anything, like, as far as from a coaching standpoint. But it could just be like, you could, that may be something that he helps do just because, like I said, with Hubert Davis, it was the same situation. He felt good enough to hand over the reins to him. Now, I know it's a different situation, but he felt good enough to be in a position to hand over the reins to him because he felt like Carolina was going to be in good hands, which I can't say necessarily that they weren't. I just said that it was just a disappointing outcomes. But I did see Billy Donovan's name being mentioned. I know Brad Stevens, he put that out of the question like he was never, that was never an option. I don't even know why his name actually got brought up in the first place because I could not.
It never hurts to ask questions. That's why his name got brought up.
I mean, I get it, but it's just, I don't know because I don't see you going through I'm saying going through the pipeline that you had, going from college to the NBA, having success in the NBA, becoming an executive with the Celtics after being, a successful head coach in his tenure, and then going back to the college game. It just, I don't know. I mean,
sometimes people just want different challenges, man. And I
mean,
went and looked it up last night. I was like, how old is Brad Stevens? He's just 49 years old. The man isn't even 50 yet. So there's still a lot of youthfulness there.
I mean, if you wanted to swing for the fences, I'm not mad at that because, like I said, if you get him in, you automatically, like I said, your recruiting goes through the roof now because, like I said, Brad Stevens, we've seen he's brilliant. Like, not just from a coaching standpoint, but also even from a front office standpoint, like he knows what he's doing. So I get why the appeal was there, but it was kind of going to be a weird thing for me to see him go from where he is right now with a team that could possibly go back to the finals that he's helping orchestrate to now, going back to the college game and going to North Carolina.
If it wasn't the biggest job in college basketball, KB, I would be right there with you. But that's the thing, because North Carolina means to college basketball what I would say Alabama and Ohio State mean to college football. Like, it's that rich. It's that deep rooted with that, which is why when it comes to college football in Alabama, I believe Kalen DeBoer is going to have to produce some serious results this year. He's going to be up out of there. But back to this North Carolina coaching search, another name I want to go ahead and throw out there that will not be going there more than likely is Dusty May. I understand that, he doesn't have as much of a buyout being at Michigan. I understand that his salary at Michigan is not even within the top 3 of head coaches in the game. That just goes to show you the leap that the coach has made in terms of signing those extensions just within the past few years. Because when did that happen, Law? Like 2023 when he was hired there?
Yeah, I want to say so. Right after he got the Michigan job, it only took that first year, and then like, you know what, bro, we gonna extend your contract another 3 years. His buyout only $8 million. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, the money's there. Dusty would be on my radar. And to KB's point about, North Carolina, like they like to keep things in the family. And that's a lot of things I've heard reported. So I can see Stackhouse being a dude who you get an interview, like we'll sit down and talk with you. Because I believe he's with the Warriors coaching staff now.
He is. He's with the Warriors coaching staff now as an assistant.
He had Vanderbilt legit, but not this version of Vanderbilt, but he had them kind of coming up not too long ago. He's a real like players coach to where like, hey, bro, we could sit down, we could go like he's able to connect with players easily. So I can see Stack being a finalist. I just feel though that you got to really knock this out the park because while I don't agree with what Stephen A. said for his reasoning behind Hubert getting fired, John Shire and them are cooking up the road. Now, is John doing anything special at the Wazoo? No, Pim. He just got in the car from what Kay had left behind. He not doing anything different. He probably connects better with the youngins. He gives them a different way to look at the game than K did. But it's not like he taking a Butler or a New Mexico and we in a Sweet 16 right now, pimp. So, but because they are having still that sustained success, your hire has to be legit. My number one pick would be TJ at Iowa State. I'm buying you out. Like you win the championship or not, we buying you out. We giving you a blank check and saying how much is it going to take. That would be my pick.
Yeah, because there's only a certain shelf life that you're going to reach at a school like Iowa State. No disrespect to them, but you're not in the class of a Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, Kentucky when we talk about the rich history of what that really means to college basketball. You brought up Jon Scheyer, so I want to bring up something really quickly, and I want to raise it to the both of y'all. What do you think is the difference here? I mean, when you look at Jon Scheyer, does he strike you as the type of guy that will probably get in front of recruits and be the charismatic figure that young people probably want to see that's going to help lure them there? That can be the only thing that it is, because I could see that as a possibility with him a lot more than I can see it with somebody like Hubert Davis, who just seems like he's a stoic type of personality.
Well, I think like with Duke's recruiting now, honestly, it don't matter who the coach is, bro. Like and this is something I've seen with my own eyes, bro. Their NBA talent speaks for itself. They'll have JT pull up to a game. Kyrie will come. They got bigs in the league now. Cooper Flag, Con Knipple. Like we're a walking product. Plus, those dudes, and they call themselves the Brotherhood. They're super tight, like off the court. Like they're super close knit type of family to where, hey, young fella, like you want this Nike deal? Cool. I'll tell my agent to come sit and talk to you. Hey, you're trying to get invited to this Jordan Brand Classic? Cool. I'll put a word. Like they're super close knit. So I'm not saying any of that to take away from John's recruiting. I just feel kind of like how you made like Alabama when Saban was there. Dog, we turning out NFL. Like you want to go to the league, bro? Come here. And even LSU had a little bit of that. I know Matt's going to get a laugh out of that, but LSU had a bit of that when they was putting out NFL products at the NFL product. Ohio State now, if you're a wide receiver, well, not anymore because Buddy went to go coach at South Florida. But when he was there, they put out all them top receivers.
Yeah, but even prior to him, though, Law, I mean, they still had like Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas. Like they've had this going for at least a decade now.
Exactly. So to like some schools and their athletics, it's reached the level to where we sell ourselves. If you want to have a chance to make it to the next level, come here, bro. And from there, it's just a matter of John or the assistant coach or whoever. It's not only sending the scholarship to said player, but like showing up and being like, hey, you are somebody we're looking at. Would you be interested in coming here?
You know what's so interesting about that, though? And KB, I'm sure you'll agree with me on this when I say this. All the names that Lawrence dropped is significant because these are guys that recruits are actually watching play in real time. North Carolina has to go find alumni that most of these kids watch on YouTube clips. I'm not even trying to be funny when I say that. Say you bring Vince Carter to a game, you bring Jerry Stackhouse to a game, Rasheed Wallace, James Worthy, Kenny the Jet Smith, Brad Doherty, Michael Jordan. These are people, no matter what their stature is, these kids didn't watch them. They watched them on YouTube. They weren't born when these guys were out there doing their thing. So I think that's very significant that you have alumni that you're able to bring in that are of the highest ilk at doing this, that they actually watch in real time.
I mean, yeah, I get it. I mean, like they don't have as far as most recent success, like as far as like NBA players that they can kind of watch from the generation of kids that they have coming in now, like a Duke, or even let's go as far as a Kansas, or guys that are still dominating in the league right now, so that we can actually take from. Because who would be mostly? Because I think right now, if we're just talking about UNC alum talent that's in the NBA still, Who are you pulling from? Harrison Barnes? Like, it's not that much. It's not that much, especially once, Roy Williams retired. You didn't really get that much. Caleb Love, he's still G League right now. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guys that we saw, they're not out there producing at a level of like Kansas had talent coming in and out. You got guys like that's potentially about to go number one in Darren Peterson. You got guys like Andrew Wiggins who's still contributing at a high level. These guys, you ain't got to necessarily go back and watch highlights. You can watch what's going on right now and still be able to pull from these guys that are actually still in the league. So
not only that though, KB, the guys that North Carolina has in the league right now, mostly though, they're mostly role players. And I'm sorry, but that's not moving. That's not moving these teenagers to want to come to the school when you can go over to when you can just go down the road in Durham and you see players from there who are stars. People are moved by stars. They're not moved by these role players. And no disrespect to any of those guys that we name, but the fact is the fact.
Yeah. And I mean, hopefully, you got a guy like Caleb Wilson who can, actually help add to, some of that lore that, North Carolina has had. Because I kind of see both of y'all's points. Like, you do need somebody that can relate to the kids because of the fact that you haven't had the NBA talent success. Like, what I'm saying? Guys, they carved out roles in the NBA. Don't get me wrong. But like you said, a lot of this, the attention, people love the stars. They love to see the superstars. You know what I'm saying? Like, Kyrie came in day one. You knew. You could just see it. Jason Tatum, you knew it was coming. Like, it was guys that you just knew they got their opportunity. It was going to be time. And I think now it's kind of like with the coaching search, it's going to have to be something more. It's going to have to be, do I really feel like this guy can get me to the NBA? That's really what it's going to come down to. Can this guy get me to where I need to get to? Can he maximize my potential? Because of the fact that you like you said, with these blue blood programs, it's going to be one of those things where, like, the relationships are close. The NBA guys are checking in on these college guys and making sure that they have everything that they need while they're there, because they're also being good ambassadors for the school as well. But when we're looking,
if I can add, even the dudes that don't necessarily reach star potential in the league for Duke, they were superstars in high school and college. They were the number one in their position. Justice Winslow coming out of Houston, Harry Giles, Jahlil Okafor. Like, these were big name dudes to where it was like the hype on those dudes was he gonna be the best in his position in the league one day. Now, they didn't just, that individual didn't pan out, but Duke was still able to recruit and get that dude to come to their school over. I mean, Justice Winslow had Texas, Houston, and Kentucky trying to knocking on his door, chose Duke. I remember Jahlil had said it was coming out to Kentucky, and that's when Cal was at Kentucky. It's coming down to Kentucky or Duke, chose Duke. So it's just kind of one of the type of things like both of y'all are saying. They've been able to, the coaching staff and the recruiters have been able to connect with the young people, but also on the back end, hey, turn your TV on Channel 5. You're going to see some of our players on both teams tonight. Not just one dude running up and down the court hoping the ball finds him. You're going to see our guys changing plays, signing the max deals that change their family's trajectory. If you want to be that cool, come over here. If not, I mean, we'll just beat you during the season. Although, when they played North Carolina, when North Carolina was at full strength, North Carolina won.
And I'm gonna say also, X, before you get back in, it's like we still can't discount the NIL portion of this whole thing. Like, the NIL is still gonna play a portion of it because of the fact that when we're talking about when they're picking a school, one thing about North Carolina is gonna be on TV. North Carolina is gonna be fighting for an ACC championship every year. It's gonna be a situation where some guys, especially local guys, that may want to stay hometown. They want to stay in their hometown. They want to play for a school that has a lot of prestige like that. Now, when it comes to the coaching aspect of it, there is going to need to be more than just, hey, these are the guys that North Carolina's produced, because that's not enough now, especially when you don't have the background to kind of go along with that. Like a guy like like how you brought up Kalen DeBoer with Alabama. We can talk about Alabama's success all day long, and I know it's a different sport, but we can talk about their success all day long. But at that point, you can't go off a reputation from something that you were never a part of. That was something that was built way before you got here. And while it's still, Alabama, we know that Alabama is Alabama. It's not the same Alabama. It's not Nick Saban's Alabama. So
let me ask you a question. Yeah, I see exactly what you're talking about. Let me ask you a question. Do you honestly think that's what Kalen DeBoer is trying to do when he's recruiting, though? Or do you think he's trying to more so push at, hey, listen, when I was at Washington, I did this with Roma Dunze and I did this with Jalen McMillan. Do you think that he can push that and somewhat move people with that too, though? Because that's recent success that we're talking about that they had not too long ago, them making it all the way to a national championship game.
It could be, and it could be. It's just also like when you're looking at guys that are where you're recruiting, when you're trying to sell guys that are looking to play specifically, like in the SEC, that stuff that he did up in Washington don't really count for much. It does, but it doesn't. In the same sense of this a whole different ball game down south. Like the way they play football down in the SEC is not the same thing as when you're playing in the Pac-12 or even the Big Ten for that matter. Like you have to bring it pretty much every single week. So yes, you could talk about those guys, but outside of those guys like Roma Dunze, Michael Penix, guys like that played up in Washington, how much NFL talent are they producing on a regular basis? So he could say about that, and then he would have to factor in what you're looking at, what I did at Washington. I also factor in what Alabama can help you do. Because like I said, certain programs, you are going to be spotlighted every single weekend. You're going to be playing. You're going to be in front of a lot of fans. Because like I look at North Carolina's situation, it's not like a Georgia Tech. I just saw Georgia Tech move off of Damon Stoudemire, and they don't have the same background as far as their recent success to even recruit some of the guys that they want to recruit. They don't have that. So guess what they're going to have to do? They're going to have to rely on getting guys from the local levels, like locally, and then they're going to have to rely on maybe we can recruit guys from even guys that from overseas, because they don't have much to go off of. They're not in the same situation like a North Carolina or even anybody else, because when you're talking about like a team like Georgia Tech, if I'm in the ACC and I got teams like Duke, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, Miami, you are on the lower level of anything. You're not even on my radar most of the time. Like I got guys that probably would even go to UGA, even though UGA is not known traditionally, as a recent producing the most NBA talent. I would feel more comfortable going there than like a Georgia Tech, for that matter.
Hold on, because you lost me a little bit on that one, because I hear you with what you're saying about where Georgia Tech is in the ACC, but do you honestly think that it's better of an option, or if it's not nearly the same option, basically going to a UGA that's in an SEC that has Arkansas, they have Florida, they have Ole Miss that can be a sleeper, even though I know they had a bad regular season, but I look at how they played in the tournament. Vanderbilt is now a problem. Mark Pope had an off year with Kentucky. Most of the time, they're a problem. And I know that UGA had a good season record-wise for this, and I know that they were the 8th seed for the region that they made in the tournament. Do you honestly think that that's still that much better, though? When you compare where UGA is in the SEC to where Georgia Tech is in the ACC, for real.
It's not that much, but if you're looking at in-state talent and you are like choosing to stay in-state, if you're picking between the two, you have a choice of getting smacked around at Georgia Tech or getting smacked around at UGA, but I would much rather get smacked around at UGA and possibly be able to still be on TV and get exposure, because like I said, Georgia Tech, it's not like I'm saying like Georgia Tech is that much lower than Georgia, but I'm not saying that it would be like a worse option if you were to say like, okay, Georgia is somewhere I feel like I would have more success, because we've seen like guys. I haven't seen NBA talent come through a school like Georgia Tech in, a couple of years, actually. But I have
Honestly, I
seen
mean,
some
honestly, the
members.
last big name that you honestly could say, and he wasn't a great superstar level player in the NBA, but he did have a long career, and that's Derek Favors, if we being honest.
Yeah, I mean, you got guys that come through. Like you got, Jose Alvarado, who's in the league right now. But if you're talking about like UGA, like at least you can say, hey, Ant played here.
Yeah.
Hey, we even got Asa Newell for the Hawks. He's a two-way player, but he got drafted first round. We can at least say that. We can't say the same thing for Georgia Tech.
KB, you can even push UGA's all-time history in basketball better than Georgia Tech's, in my opinion. Because you can say, hey, Dominique Wilkins played here.
You could, and it's more names you could name. Like, I'm not trying to say anything crazy, but I'm just saying there's teams that are in worse situations as far as like being able to recruit off of just tradition. Like North Carolina at least has that tradition to go off of, and then they also have to have they have to have a lot of things go right, is what I'm saying, when it comes to their recruiting pitch, because of the fact that depending on who you're going after, they may not be that household name that's just going to attract recruits. And when you're talking about you got a school right down the road that has had more success recently than you have, especially now going in this tournament, they've had the success that you're looking for. So you gotta be able to fight up against that. Like even NC State, you got schools in your state that you're fighting against, year in and year out for top level recruits. So I think that they are going to have a name that is going to, at least get recruits, fans, boosters, everybody excited.
So
I do
let
wanna,
me go ahead, Law, because I'm gonna throw one more name at y'all to wrap this segment up. And Law, you know where I'm going with this, because I brought it up a couple of days ago.
I do want to add that and this is credit to Hubert. He did land Caleb Wilson, and I want to say Caleb was like top 5 in that class. Before Caleb, he added Ian Jackson. Now, to discredit Hubert, he just ain't know how to use Ian Jackson. That's why Ian transferred to St. John's, but for Rick. But even in this upcoming class, he got 2 McDonald's All-Americans that have committed to come to North Carolina. So Hubert can recruit. Man, I think I said this in the chat, X. He not going out there and be like, hey, bro, you see Kobe White on TV today? Like, that's where you could be here in North Carolina. He's more so like, hey, bro, I get you on the phone with Michael Jordan real quick. Woody do woo. You know what I'm like? Or look how long it's been since we've been to this level of the tournament. If you can bring that to us, you'll be a legend here.
Yeah, but again, and I know where you're going with that, and I agree with you, but I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say this too. A phone call with Michael Jordan moves me. It will move you. It will move KB, because we have an appreciation for history. I don't know that these kids have that same appreciation for it. They appreciate the shoes that he puts out that they get to wear, of course, but I don't know if they have the grand appreciation for what Michael Jordan means to basketball in a totality. I don't know if they have the grand appreciation for what Vince Carter and Vince Sanity means to the game of basketball. Like I said, most of the legends that North Carolina can put out there for these kids to watch, they have to watch them on YouTube. And to me, that does make a difference. And I know that our good friend Matt Craig is going to listen at this and probably just give me the pointing meme right now, because he brings this up all the time when we talk about LSU's history versus other schools' history. But I can only speak for me when I say, as a history buff, if I had an opportunity to go to a school like North Carolina and you telling me I could put up banners like Rashid and Vince and Jordan and James Roy, that's going to give me something to think about. But I'm a history buff. I have an appreciation for that. I don't know if the Gen Z kids that they're having to go after KB, I just don't know if they're moved by any of that.
You're right. I if somebody say, I'm promising you a phone call from Jordan, hey, that'd be enough. That would be enough, because like you said, though, I think that this is why I say, like, this is going to be interesting. This is why I can't put a particular name in that coaching search that I would just feel like 100%, like, I think this is going to be the most ideal fit, because like I said, it has to have some type of lasting effect with these recruits. because, like you said, I don't think that these recruits now, it is a different era. So I don't think that they're worried about tradition or history. I think that they're worried about branding, like their brand, their personal brand, because like everything is about getting to the league, man. Like you have the what is it? The NBA McKnight or any of these teams and programs like that. You have overseas. This is all about branding at this point. Like you got guys skipping college and going to play professionally overseas because they feel like that college is not going to help them get to the league. It's a lot of things that go into these decisions now that kind of are like we don't necessarily know how this is going to go over. I do think that North Carolina is going to be diligent, though. I will say that I don't think that they're just going to hire a name just to say we got a coach now. I do think that they're going to take their time with this because it is a very attractive job. This is, like I said, this ain't a job that's just going to come open all the time. Like most of the time you think of UNC, you think of long tenured head coaches, like coaches that may last even up to 10 seasons. But I do think that it was a good thing that Law said, like, sometimes you hold on to a coach too long. And I think once you fall into that little realm of, all right, we just doing the same thing year in, year out, good enough to make a tournament, not good enough to make a national championship, even though he had that success to make a national championship. But you start to see a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Once Caleb Wilson injury happened, I knew that it wasn't gonna be long for them in the tournament. I knew that was gonna be pretty much. I've seen them play in person. I've seen how much he does for that team. I knew it was gonna be very tough, no matter who they played. It was gonna be you're gonna catch somebody, and it's gonna be a situation where you're gonna have to overcome that. And I didn't think they were gonna be able to, just because the talent in the field was so diverse that they were going to have to play a different style of basketball that they weren't accustomed to playing. So I knew it was going to be a little bit of a challenge. Like
the first injury, the second injury.
You said what happened?
The first injury or the second one?
The second one.
Okay. Yeah. Facts. Yeah, I agree with that because he's just kind of a dynamic forward for like you. I would imagine, bro, they weren't even able to replicate that in practice. Like his impact for them, like you're not able to replicate that in practice, bro. How electric he is. If I could, X, I do want to throw out a name that before I started hearing these rumors, I was like, oh, that would be an interesting get if they could pry him away. But if they could have got Will Wade, I'm like, oh, snap. Like, because he gonna recruit, he gonna bring that fire. But from what I'm hearing, bro, LSU already got that locked up. Like they've already told that man, this is what your NIL budget is next year. And I'll say it's an amount that North Carolina State can't compete with in terms of basketball. So that's already people saying that's already a done deal for Will Wade to go back to LSU. So
that would be something. That would be something. Let me throw out another name to y'all really quickly. Is it not worth trying to at least put in a call to Spokane and see if Mark Few can be pried away? I know that Gonzaga has not won a national championship with Mark Few. I get it. I know they've gone home early in the tournament the past few years with him. But in all honesty, I think NIL has somewhat messed up part of the train that he had rolling at Gonzaga to begin the decade in the first place. At one point, this man had Drew Timme, Chet Holmgren, and Jalen Suggs all on the same team, and they made a deep run into the tournament. And every year that he's been there since 1999, they have made the NCAA tournament. But they're one of those mid-major type of programs that when it comes down to things like NIL, they're going to get lost in the sauce a little bit. And I'm not saying that he would leave. I mean, he's been there nearly 30 years at this point as the head coach. But is it not worth at least a phone call to see, is there any interest in?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely worth a phone call. I think that, like you said, it was the whole NIL landscape did change a lot of things because, like, for a mid-major program like that, that was recruiting. That was recruiting at its finest. Like, the way he was able to get some of those guys, I don't think it's going to be possible for him to do it again. I think that it's going to be because of the fact that, like I said, branding is very important now. Like, so with that being said, I'm going to go where I get the best offer. This is no different than negotiating an NBA contract. If I can get $10 million, you want me to come here and I get $10 million for a year because I got NBA aspirations. Hey, I'm going. I'm going. No doubt about it. But I'm gonna go to a team where I know I'm gonna be on. I know I'm gonna be on TV for the majority of my tenure. Like I want to be on a national stage. I want to be in these invitationals. I want to be playing in front of like hostile crowds, like pretty much all the time. I want that, and I don't think that I think with Gonzaga, I think that he would at least entertain it. I really do. Because, like I said, if you're going to leave a job that you've been, you know, one of the longest tenured coaches in college basketball, it's got to be for something like this. It has to make, because, like I said, you would instantly automatically get those recruits that you were talking about, those high level recruits. Now you go into a program where they have the money to spend. They have the branding already behind you. You have the success behind you as well. You've played in national championship. Like you don't have a national championship, but you have that success behind you to at least get the interest of those players. So you
not only that, but if they get the right coach in there, watch how much bigger that NIL budget gets. Just watch. Because we saw him do it with Bill Belichick.
I would say my only thing is, and I believe KB had mentioned this earlier, where it was like, I think he said that, North Carolina isn't really used to being in this situation, firing a coach. We're trying to figure out who we're going to bring in. They've only fired like 3 head coaches for the basketball. It's like 3 to 5 head coaches like all the time in the history of the program. My only worry with that would be with Mark Few being 63 years old, how long can he be here? You know what I'm saying? Like, because you mentioned earlier, X, about Bill Self's health concerns, and I'm not, knock on wood, I don't believe Mark Few's had any health concerns, but I'll just be in the back of my mind, like, Roy, like, it took a lot for Roy to have to step away. And Roy was up there through the health concerns. Like, Roy was falling out on the sidelines, coming back with neck braces. I just don't see Mark Few as sturdy as Roy was, because you'll see Roy at a game today jumping around and cheering in the stands like he coaching. So that'd be my only like hesitation on something like Mark Few right now is how long are we, if we're going to pay you all this money to get you out of Gonzaga and get you to stay here, how long are we going to truly have you?
Okay, so I believe you have to ask yourself this question too with something like that. Are you trying to have immediate success right now, or are you trying to build with somebody who can have a sustained amount of success for a long period of time with the program? Because obviously Mark Few is probably not there for the long haul, being 63 years old. Maybe you give him 10 years at best. Maybe. I don't know. That might be a bit of a stretch. And, I said it in our group chat last night, Law. I thought North Carolina would go for somebody younger, but I really had to sit down and I had to look at this too. You look at most of the coaches that are left in this tournament, most of them are pretty much up there in age. So they're finding success doing that too. That's something else that makes it play a factor for me. Like, yeah, he's 63, but Pitino and Kelvin Sampson are in their 70s and they still got their trains rolling where they are at St. John's and Houston. And you give them, I just think Mark Few deserves a phone call from North Carolina. I want to see the man go somewhere and have a chance where he can actually compete for a championship, because I don't think he can do it at Gonzaga anymore at this point.
I agree. I mean, to KB's, I think you said it. It's like that team when they had Jalen Suggs, Drew Timme, and Chet. I mean, that was one of his best shots. Besides that Adam Morrison squad, you just not, especially in today's NIL, you're not getting the bodies necessary to make that type of run. We had mentioned North Carolina State. The majority of that team was transfers from McKnight State, where Will came over from McKnight State. So it's like they just don't have the bodies per se. But I mean, I agree. He definitely deserves a call. I mean, hell, in my opinion, he deserves an interview. Like, pick his brain, see what it would take at least. Because I was the one who said, like, I would sit down with Jerry Stackhouse. So yeah, I would definitely sit down with Mark Few. I know you were against it, but I would sit down with Dusty May.
No, I'm not against sitting down with Dusty May. I just don't think Dusty May is going to leave Michigan.
I agree. I feel like it would be hard. I feel like it would be just as hard to get him out just as hard it would be to get Bill Self out. I mean, although I have heard they kind of sick of Bill stuff too now, because over there in Kansas, their thinking is, bro, we're giving you everything, dog. We giving you the money to go get these guys. You got the booster support. What more you need? That year that they didn't make the tournament, and then he complained about it in the presser. We gave you the bread to go fill that team up, and you still ain't win the championship.
All I'll simply say to that point is this, and I'm sure you'll agree with this. Be careful pushing somebody like that out the door. I understand that the goods haven't been delivered recently, but be careful, because unless you have the next Bill Self or Roy Williams or Larry Brown in waiting, I don't know if I do that, because yes, Kansas is, I would say that they're a storied program now at this point. They've got a track record of about 40 years of long-term success that we can look to. But they're in Kansas. What is there to really do in Kansas? Mm-hmm. Geographically, these things have to make sense too. That's something else that some of these schools have to look at before they just up and make these decisions on firing somebody just because, okay, you didn't win the championship. That's something else they got to consider. You got to consider the environment that you're in.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. And to your point that I would agree with it, prime example, look at where Kentucky is now. We was mad at Cal because Cal had 2 or 3 years where I believe he lost in 64, lost in the second round, lost in the Sweet 16. We won a natty. All right, Cal, we tired of you, bro. We gonna pay the fee to get you up out of here. And now look who's still dancing, Cal. Look at all them Kentucky players that y'all had back in the day that were there with Cal. They don't even claim y'all no more. They claim Arkansas. Life comes at you fast, but to your point, if you're going to move on from I'll go ahead and say from a future Hall of Famer coach, you got to be sure that the dude we pulling in next is a home run. Like, for example, I would hate if North Carolina hired Marcus Page to be the head coach. Great guy. You love what you did for the university when you played here, but you're not the one right now. You're not the one. I love that you was on the staff, but you're not the one to be the head coach right now. We need a home run to get back on.
And I think that's exactly why they emphasized last night when everything went down that they would look outside of the Tar Heel family to find the next head coach. I think that's why they emphasize that for everybody to understand that. Well, fellas, baseball is officially back. It's been back for me for the past month down here covering spring training. KB, I got to tell you, man, I saw your Braves in the finale yesterday against Tampa Bay. They played all of the opening day starters, particularly in the batting lineup. They look good for the most part. If everybody stays healthy, I think Atlanta's going to actually have something to cheer for this year. But the regular season opener for everybody tonight on Wednesday at the time of this recording, the Yankees taking on the San Francisco Giants. That game is on Netflix. Hopefully to everybody who's watching that, you're enjoying it. Yankees were up big last time I checked, and they're probably still up big right now too. San Francisco is an interesting watch to me, fellas. And I say that because they did something that was very unorthodox in terms of how they went about hiring their next manager. They hired somebody who had no major league experience whatsoever, but had some success on the college level, hiring the head coach at the University of Tennessee. And I get it to a degree. You want to get in front of that scouting and everything, KB, in terms of the farm system, but I don't know if we've ever seen a move like that happen in Major League Baseball. And if we have, we haven't seen it have success.
No, you don't really see that happen. And to be honest with you, I don't know if this is going to be the start of something new or if this is just, a one-off and we don't see this happen for a long time. Because like I said, usually when there are manager positions, a lot of times a lot of teams sometimes look to do what the Braves look to do after they moved on from Ryan Snitker. They choose to promote from within the clubhouse because of the fact that they've already established these relationships. They've established this coaching philosophy already. So it's kind of easy transition. as opposed to getting a guy from college and then trying to transition him into, a clubhouse, get him established to how things are going to be going on a day-to-day basis. It's different. It's different. I can't say I've seen it happen, past 10 years, actually. I haven't. And I'm just going off the past decade. So it is different. I don't know if I really don't see this being like a normal situation going forward. I think this is just something that, the Giants use to shake things up, really. And that must mean they didn't feel necessarily comfortable promoting from within. It might have been one of those things they looked inside and they said, we don't see enough.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what they saw there, and I'm not saying that it's not going to work, but it's just interesting how they went about this entire strategy. What I will give them credit for, though, is that at least they tried something new. The Yankees coming back with the same old thing with Aaron Boone that just doesn't work, and at some point they're eventually going to have to cut their losses with that. But we know that grind of 162 is going to be a lot. In baseball, we call it the dog days of the summer. Thankfully, we're not at that point yet. Season's just starting up. But just looking far ahead, the front runners for MVP this year, I'm indecisive on the AL. I can just tell you for the NL, for me, it's Shohei Ohtani once again, because I've never seen a player like this before who can go out there and pitch the way that he pitches and then goes out there offensively and does what he does too.
Yeah, I agree, bro. And yet again, bro, if Matt is listening to this episode, he is gonna laugh. But I just see Shohei like Wemby. Like when they lock in, bro, there's literally little to nothing you can do with them in their respective sport. And MVPs, both of their divisions, but also overall the league in Wemby's case, is theirs until they get bored of like, all right, cool. Like somebody else can have it now. But it's like this where the game is now. This where the game is. And listen, for the Aaron Judges of the world or the Bryce Harpers, bro, go take it, bro. Like, it's not like you like this, you right there. You have to go take that from him, or else he's gonna like just coast and be like, all right, well, maybe I'll get a break here and there. No, you gotta go take it.
I'm gonna say this. I know that of course Shohei was a given, and I got a couple of other names like Acuna is another name that I'll throw out in that race just because, like I said, sometimes those guys just from the momentum he's riding from winning the WBC, and I think that representing his country, that could be enough to just continue his momentum going into the season. And like you even said with the Braves, if they can stay healthy, they got a good as chance as anybody of dethroning the Dodgers. Now, Shohei is like that unicorn. We never seen nothing like him, and it's a good chance we could never see nothing like him ever come across baseball again. For the AL, I mean, Aaron Judge, I feel like he got a lot to prove this year. I feel like he got a lot to prove. And if he doesn't get it done this year, there's going to be a lot of people that, it's a lot of people already that I know that are Yankee fans that have been telling me, man, this ain't the guy. This ain't the guy. And, is it fair? Some of it, yeah. Some of it ain't. But, I mean, it is what it is based off of what they've, coming up short.
KB, I'm one of those Yankee fans that you can put in that category, by the way. I don't think he's the guy.
Yeah. And, I mean, when you look at it, when you have one of the highest payrolls in Major League Baseball, there is going to be some level of expectation that comes with it because the Dodgers have made it. They have one of the highest payrolls in baseball, but also they get the success. They got the track record to prove like this is why we spend it. This is why we use deferred money. This is why we do the things that we do because they pretty much shown that they have the track record to prove why they're doing what they're doing.
They are committed to winning. That's what the Dodgers are. They are what the Yankees used to be. The Yankees are more so now a team that is owned by Hal Steinbrenner, who inherited by his father, the late George Steinbrenner. And to me, it just seems like they're more focused on trying to make as much money as they can make, as opposed to trying to put the best teams together that they can to win ball games.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna throw a name out for AL MVP just because of how successful he was last year and helped that franchise. Cal Raleigh. Cal Raleigh would be another guy that I would throw out there. Now, do I think that he could have the same success? Yeah, I think he could have the same success he had last year. It's going to be tough though because, like I said, that season came out of nowhere and it was honestly one of the best seasons we've seen from a catcher ever. So I think that he's a name that you got to throw out there. And like I said, it's gonna be a tough race in the AL for MVP. I think it's gonna be a tough race in both leagues. I just think that AL is gonna be one of those toss-ups this year because of we've seen Aaron Judge, we've seen him have success. But I don't know, man. I'm looking at Aaron Boone a little bit different. Like I'm like, man, you on the hot seat. You gotta produce.
Are
Like
you just now starting to look at him a little bit?
Nah, I've been kind of saying that, but I've been keeping it quiet. I just been kind of like, I'm surprised at this point. But if he doesn't get it done this year, I honestly could see them making a change because like it's kind of crazy at this point. You spend all that money, you invested into these big names. You got everything in your favor. It's just now it's about can you close the deal or not? If they don't do it this year, I honestly could see them making a change. But yeah, those are my names that I would throw out right now as like my way too early picks for MVP. Those would be the guys that I would have on my radar going into the season.
For the AL, here's what I'll say for me. Kyle Riley's on my list. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on my list. I think that he's going to emerge in that category this year, too. I'm going to throw out a wild card for the NL, though. Ellie De La Cruz with the Cincinnati Reds. He's a wild card that I'm looking at who could emerge in that conversation. He's one of the flashiest, most must-see players in baseball, but he's got the production that comes with it, too. I could see him and them taking a leap in that NL Central division that I think is more wide open than folks are letting on. I know the Cubs are the favorites to repeat as the NL Central champions, but to me, that division is wide open right now. I just don't know. But that's going to wrap up part one of the Why Not Us, Why Not Now podcast. We'll be back with part two. We're actually going to start with our quick hitters right there. Got to talk about some big things happening in the league. X and KB and Law, our guests coming at you. We'll be right back.